"Daddy, can I give my teddy bear to the sad girl?" What the billionaire dad decides to do is unbelievable. The afternoon sun painted the leaves gold as Rowan and Emily walked through the town square. It was one of those perfect autumn days, with a crisp air that made your cheeks pink and the leaves dance in the wind. Emily swung her little brown teddy bear in her small hands, humming a song she had learned at school. The teddy bear, whom she called Barnaby, had been with her since she was a baby. His ears were worn from so much affection, and one of his paws had a patch sewn on by her grandmother. It was impossible to see Emily without Barnaby. They were inseparable. "Daddy, can I play on the slide?" Emily asked, pointing to the playground in the center of the square. "Of course, Princess, but just for a few minutes, then we have to go home and get dinner ready." Rowan sat on a nearby bench, watching his daughter run towards the playground. At 5 years old, Emily was pure energy and joy. Her blonde hair flew as she ran, and her smile could light up any room. She was a child who never passed by someone sad without wanting to help. Rowan had lost count of how many times Emily had offered her toys to other children at the park, or insisted on sharing her snacks with anyone who looked lonely. Her natural kindness always surprised people, who would comment on how rare it was to see such a young child with so much empathy. On that particular day, Emily seemed especially attuned to the world around her. Maybe it was the approaching autumn, or maybe it was just one of those days when her heart was more open to noticing who needed help. As Emily climbed the stairs to the slide, something caught her attention. On the other side of the square, near a large tree, was a small figure huddled on the ground. Emily stopped at the top of the slide, completely forgetting about playing. It was a girl about her age, sitting alone with her arms wrapped around her legs. She wore dirty clothes that were far too big for her thin frame. Her dark hair was messy and fell over her face. She looked very sad and lost. Emily's heart ached in a way she couldn't explain. She knew that feeling of sadness. She had felt it before, especially when she had nightmares or got hurt playing. But she had never been alone when it happened. She always had her daddy or Barnaby or her grandma, or someone to comfort her and make the sadness go away. That girl seemed to have no one, and that made Emily feel a very strong urge to help. She ran down the slide and went to Rowan. "Daddy," she called, pulling on his shirt sleeve. "And there's a girl over there who looks really sad." Rowan looked in the direction Emily was pointing, his brow furrowed with concern when he saw the child alone. It was getting too late for such a young child to be alone in the square. "You're right, sweetie. That's strange. I wonder where her parents are." Emily looked at Barnaby in her hands, then at the distant girl, then back at her father. Her little eyes lit up with an idea. "Daddy, can I give my teddy bear to the sad girl?" The question caught Rowan completely by surprise. He knew how much Emily loved that teddy bear. It was her most faithful companion, going with her everywhere, to school, to Grandma's house, to bed every night. They had already been through several crises when Barnaby went missing for a few minutes at home. "Emily, are you sure? Barnaby is very special to you. You can't sleep without him. Remember when he was accidentally left at Grandma's house and you stayed up all night?" "I know, Daddy, but she's really sad, and she's all alone." Emily looked at the girl again, then at Barnaby. "Barnaby always helps me when I'm sad too. Maybe he can help her. I think she needs him more than I do right now." Rowan felt something warm and proud spread through his chest, a feeling that took him by surprise. His daughter, at 5 years old, was already showing an empathy and generosity that many adults lacked. She was willing to give up her most precious possession to help a complete stranger, without asking for anything in return. He stood up and held her hand. "Then let's go talk to her." They walked slowly towards the tree. As they got closer, Rowan could see the child's situation better. She was very young, maybe the same age as Emily. Her clothes were not just dirty, but torn in some places. Her little shoes were worn out and she was shivering slightly. The girl saw them approaching and shrank back even more, like a frightened little animal. Emily let go of her father's hand and approached the girl carefully. She crouched down slowly beside the child, keeping a respectful distance. "Hi," Emily said softly. "I'm Emily. What's your name?" The girl slowly lifted her eyes. They were large and dark, filled with a sadness that shouldn't exist in someone so young. She looked at Emily, then at Rowan, but didn't answer. "I saw you looked sad," Emily continued. "When I'm sad, my teddy bear Barnaby always helps me. He's my best friend." She held Barnaby in front of her, showing him to the girl. "You know, he has a special power. When I hug him really tight, all the sadness goes away. He helps me when I'm sad. You can have him." And then Emily held out Barnaby to the unknown girl. Rowan felt his eyes sting. Seeing his daughter's pure generosity was a source of immense pride. Emily was offering not just a toy, but her most important comfort object. The girl looked at the teddy bear with wide eyes, as if she were seeing something magical. Her little hands trembled slightly, and Rowan realized she was torn between the desire to accept and the fear that it was some kind of trick. She hesitated for a long moment, clearly in an internal conflict, looking between Emily, Rowan, and the offered teddy bear. Finally, with trembling hands, she reached out her small, dirty hand to take the bear. When her fingers touched Barnaby's soft fur, she brought him close to her chest and closed her eyes. "Thank you," she whispered so quietly that Rowan almost didn't hear. Rowan crouched down too. "Where are your parents, sweetie?" he asked gently. The girl didn't answer. She just hugged Barnaby tighter and hid her face again. Emily looked at her father with determined eyes. "Daddy, she's alone. We can't leave her here." Rowan felt the weight of responsibility fall on his shoulders. He was a single father, working hard to support himself and Emily. He had no experience with situations like this, but looking at that clearly abandoned child, shivering by the tree as the sun began to set, and at his daughter's pleading and determined eyes, he knew he had no real choice. His conscience wouldn't let him just walk away and pretend he hadn't seen. "What's your name, sweetie?" he asked again. The girl looked at him for a moment, then answered quietly, "Lily." "Lily," Emily repeated, smiling. "That's a very pretty name, just like the flower in Grandma's garden." For the first time, Lily looked directly at Emily, and Rowan saw a flicker of hope in her eyes. "Lily," Rowan said softly, "where are you living?" Lily's answer was simple and devastating. "Here." Rowan felt his heart clench. "Here in the square." Lily nodded slightly. Rowan looked around. The sun was already setting, and it would soon be dark. The temperature would drop during the night. There was no way he could leave a child alone there. "Emily, go," he said. "Do you think Lily would like to have dinner with us tonight?" Emily's eyes lit up. "Of course. We're having mac and cheese. Do you like mac and cheese, Lily?" Lily looked between the father and daughter with an expression of total confusion, as if she couldn't process that someone was inviting her to something good. As if kindness were too strange a concept to comprehend, something she had forgotten existed. "It's just for tonight," Rowan added. "Tomorrow we'll figure out what to do, okay? But tonight, you don't have to stay here alone." Lily hesitated for a long moment. Rowan could see the conflict in her small eyes, the desire to accept fighting against fear and mistrust. Finally, she gave an almost imperceptible nod. "Great!" Emily clapped her hands. "You'll see, our house is super cool. It has a garden with flowers and dolls, and you can sleep in a warm bed." Rowan picked Emily up and held out his hand to Lily, but she stood up on her own, keeping her distance but agreeing to follow them. The walk home was an interesting mix of sounds and silences. Emily chattered non-stop about her toys, about school, about the flowers in the garden, and about everything Lily might like at the house. Her voice was like a cheerful river, flowing without obstacles, filling the silence with hope and expectation. Lily walked a few steps behind, clutching Barnaby to her chest as if he were her protective shield against a world that had already caused her so much pain. Rowan couldn't stop thinking about what he had gotten himself into. How would he take care of two children? What if Lily had health problems? What if someone came looking for her? But then he would look at Emily, who turned to give encouraging smiles to Lily, and at the lost girl holding the teddy bear like a treasure. He might not have all the answers, but he knew he couldn't have done anything different. They arrived at the house, a simple but cozy building, with a garden in the front and a small porch. Rowan opened the door, and Emily ran inside. "Lily, this is our house," she announced proudly. Lily stopped at the entrance, looking at everything with wide eyes. It was clear it had been a long time since she had been inside a real house. "You can come in," Rowan said softly. "You're safe here." Lily took a hesitant step inside, still clutching Barnaby. The house was cozy and clean, with simple but comfortable furniture. There were drawings by Emily stuck to the refrigerator, books stacked on a low table, and the faint scent of flowers from the garden. "You must be tired," Rowan said. "How about you take a bath while I make dinner? Emily can lend you some clean clothes." Lily looked down at her own dirty clothes and nodded shyly. Emily took Lily's hand, which she didn't refuse, to Rowan's surprise, and led her to the bathroom. "I'll get you a really fluffy towel and a pair of pajamas that I really like." An hour later, the two girls came downstairs. Emily was beaming, and Lily. Rowan almost didn't recognize her. Clean, with her hair combed and wearing a pair of Emily's pink pajamas, she looked even smaller, but also more like a child. "Lily looks beautiful, doesn't she, Daddy?" Emily said, proud. "Yes, she does," Rowan agreed. "Now, let's have dinner." They sat at the kitchen table. Rowan served mac and cheese for everyone, but he noticed that Lily only ate small forkfuls, chewing slowly, as if she wasn't used to hot food. "Lily, do you like cartoons?" Emily asked. Lily shrugged. "I've never really watched them." "Never really watched them?" Emily was shocked. "We can watch one after dinner." "Daddy, can we?" "Of course," Rowan replied, watching the two of them. The difference between them was stark. Emily, talkative and full of energy, and Lily, quiet and cautious. After dinner, they settled on the couch. Emily chose a cartoon about talking animals, and Rowan noticed that Lily seemed interested, though she remained stiff, as if she didn't know how to relax. When it was time for bed, Rowan showed Lily to the guest room, a small but cozy room, with a simple bed and clean blankets. "Are you sure you don't want to sleep in my room?" Emily offered. "We could have a slumber party." Lily looked at the bed, then at Emily. "This is fine," she said quietly, but Rowan noticed her eyes sparkled when she saw the made-up bed. Rowan brought extra blankets and another pillow. "If you need anything during the night, you can call me, okay? My room is right there." He pointed down the hall. "You don't have to be scared." Lily nodded, still holding Barnaby. Emily said goodnight with a shy hug, which Lily hesitantly accepted. Rowan tucked Lily into bed, adjusting the blankets around her. "Sleep well, sweetie. You're safe now." As he turned off the light and left the room, Rowan paused for a moment at the door. Through the crack, he saw Lily lying in bed, hugging Barnaby, staring at the ceiling with wide eyes, as if she couldn't believe she was there. For the first time in a long time, maybe months, Lily was going to sleep in a warm bed, with clean blankets, in a safe place. Rowan felt a mix of sadness for the girl's situation and relief that he could offer, at least for one night, the comfort every child deserved. In his own room, Rowan took a long time to fall asleep. He kept thinking about what he would do in the morning, the calls he would have to make, the complications that would surely come. But every time anxiety took over, he remembered Lily's eyes when Emily offered her Barnaby, and the look of gratitude when she whispered, "Thank you." Some decisions in life have no logical explanation. Sometimes you just do what your heart tells you is right. From the next room, there was no sound. Lily had finally fallen asleep, for the first time in a long time, in a warm, safe bed. Her small fingers still held Barnaby against her chest, and Rowan knew that Teddy Bear represented much more than a simple toy. It was a symbol that someone cared about her. And that, for now, was all that mattered. A child was safe, warm, and for the first time in a long time, not alone. The house was shrouded in the silence of the early morning when Emily was awakened by a low, anguished sound. At first, still sleepy, she thought it might be the wind hitting the window or maybe one of the neighbors' cats. But as she became more awake, she realized it was something different. It was a muffled cry mixed with whispered words she couldn't quite understand. Emily sat up in bed, rubbing her eyes with her little hands. The sound was coming from the next room, where Lily was sleeping or trying to sleep. She got out of bed slowly, her bare feet touching the cold floor. Her bedroom door was ajar, as it always was, so her dad could check on her during the night. Emily stretched her neck, trying to listen better. Lily's crying was unlike anything Emily had ever heard. It wasn't like when she herself cried after a nightmare. It was a deeper, more desperate sound, as if it came from a very dark place inside the girl's chest. Emily hesitated for a moment. Maybe she should call her dad. He always knew what to do when she was scared or sad. But something inside her said that Lily might need something different right now. Maybe she needed someone her own age, someone who understood what it was like to be small and afraid. She tiptoed out of her room, walking down the dark hallway to the door of the room where Lily was. The door was closed, but she could hear more clearly now. "Please, no," Lily murmured between sobs. "I'll be good, I promise. Don't leave me here alone." Emily's heart clenched. It was obvious Lily was having a nightmare, but it seemed so real, so terrifying. Emily knew nightmares well. She'd had plenty, especially after watching movies that were a little too scary, but hers were usually about monsters or strange creatures. Lily's seemed to be about much worse things. Emily knocked lightly on the door, a tap so soft it barely made a sound. "Lily?" she called out softly. "Are you okay?" The crying stopped for a moment, but soon started again, quieter now, as if Lily was trying to hide. Emily slowly turned the knob and opened the door just enough to peek inside. Moonlight streamed through the window, creating soft shadows in the room. Lily was in bed, curled up into a small ball, trembling under the covers. Barnaby was clutched against her chest, but not even the teddy bear seemed to be able to ward off the fear. "Lily," Emily whispered, entering the room carefully. "It's just a nightmare. You're safe." Lily opened her eyes, confused and scared. For a moment, she didn't seem to recognize where she was. Her eyes searched the room until they found Emily standing by the bed. "Emily," she murmured, her voice still thick with tears. "It's me. You were crying. Were you having a bad nightmare?" Lily slowly sat up in bed, wiping her tears with the back of her hand. She nodded, but said nothing. Emily moved a little closer. "Can I sit here with you?" Lily hesitated, then nodded. Emily climbed onto the bed and sat next to Lily, leaving a little space between them so the girl wouldn't feel pressured. They stayed like that for a few minutes, in silence, just breathing together in the dark. "I have nightmares sometimes too," Emily said finally. "When I was really little, I used to dream about monsters under the bed. Daddy would always come and turn on all the lights to show me there was nothing there." Lily looked at her, curious despite her sadness. "And you know what he taught me," Emily continued, "that when we're scared, we don't have to be alone. It's always better when someone is nearby." Emily held out her small hand towards Lily. "You're not alone anymore. I'll stay here with you." Lily looked at the outstretched hand for a long moment. Emily could see the conflict in her eyes. Part of her wanted to accept the comfort, but another part was still afraid to trust. Finally, slowly, Lily reached out her own hand and touched Emily's. It was a hesitant touch, like a bird landing on a branch that might not hold its weight. Emily gently closed her fingers around Lily's hand. "There, now you're not alone." They sat like that on the bed, holding hands in the dark. Emily started talking quietly about happy things, about the flowers in the garden that were starting to bloom, about the cartoons she liked to watch, about how she got Barnaby when she was a baby. Gradually, Lily's breathing calmed down. Her body, which had been tense as a stretched rope, began to relax. She didn't let go of Emily's hand for a second. "Emily," Lily whispered after a while. Thank you for coming here. Whenever you need me," Emily replied sincerely. "That's what friends do." Lily smiled for the first time since she had woken up scared. It was a small smile, almost imperceptible in the dim light, but it was there. They lay down together on the bed, still holding hands. Emily stayed awake for a while longer, making sure Lily had truly fallen asleep before letting her own eyes close. When Rowan passed through the hallway an hour later to check on the girls, he found them sleeping side by side, their hands intertwined over the blankets. His heart filled with tenderness, seeing how Emily, despite being so young, already knew instinctively how to care for someone in need. He adjusted the blankets over both girls, and left the room silently, knowing that something important had happened that night. A bond was forming between them, a bond born from one's need and the other's generosity. The next morning, Rowan woke to the sound of quiet voices coming from the kitchen. He went downstairs and found the two girls sitting at the table, still in their pajamas. Emily was telling an animated story about a squirrel that lived in the garden, gesturing enthusiastically, while Lily listened intently. What was most surprising was that Lily was eating, not just picking at her food as she had at dinner the night before, but really eating. She chewed slowly, as if savoring every bite. And Rowan noticed she had already finished almost half of her plate of pancakes. "Good morning, girls," Rowan said, trying not to show too much of the surprise and joy he felt. "Good morning, Daddy," Emily replied cheerfully. "Lily liked your pancakes. She said she's never had pancakes this good." Rowan looked at Lily, who blushed slightly but nodded. "It's true. They're very good," she said quietly, but with more firmness in her voice than Rowan had heard until then. During breakfast, Rowan discreetly observed the interaction between the girls. There was something different in the air, a connection that hadn't existed the night before. They exchanged knowing glances, as if sharing a special secret. Emily spoke more slowly, giving Lily space to respond, and Lily, in turn, seemed more relaxed, less tense. When they finished eating, Emily jumped from her chair with an idea sparkling in her eyes. "Lily, do you want to see my clothes? Some of them might fit you." Lily hesitated for only a second before nodding. Rowan realized it was getting easier for her to accept Emily's offers. The two went up to Emily's room, and soon Rowan could hear giggles and lively chatter coming from upstairs. It was a sound that warmed his heart. His house, which for so long had been quiet, was now full of life. An hour later, the girls came downstairs. Lily was wearing a light pink shirt of Emily's, which was just a little big on her, and a pair of jeans that Emily had worn the previous year. The clothes were clean and smelled fresh, a stark contrast to the dirty, torn pieces Lily had arrived in. "Daddy, Lily needs new clothes," Emily announced with the authority of someone who had given the matter a lot of thought. "Mine fit for now, but she needs her own things." Rowan looked at Lily, who was admiring the shirt she was wearing, running her hands over the soft fabric as if it was something precious. "What do you think, Lily? Want to go shopping with us?" Lily's eyes widened. "Shopping for me?" "Of course," Emily answered before Rowan could speak. "You need pretty clothes. And shoes, and maybe a coat for when it gets cold." Lily looked between the father and daughter, still unable to fully believe it. "But won't that cost a lot of money?" The question broke Rowan's heart. A 5-year-old child shouldn't have to worry about the cost of basic things she needed. "Don't worry about that, sweetie," Rowan said gently. "Every child needs clothes, and it would be really nice to pick out some things that you like." The smile that spread across Lily's face was like the sun rising after a very long night. The trip to the mall was an adventure in itself. Lily walked between Rowan and Emily, looking at everything with curious and amazed eyes. It was obvious it had been a long time since she had been in a place like that. In the children's clothing store, Emily turned into a determined fashion consultant, picking out items and holding them up to Lily to see if they matched. Lily, in turn, was more cautious, touching the fabrics carefully, as if afraid of damaging something. Rowan noticed that Lily naturally gravitated towards soft colors and delicate patterns. She chose a light blue dress with small flowers, a white blouse with lace on the sleeves, and a flared skirt in a baby pink shade. All the pieces she selected had something in common. They were soft, feminine, as if she were trying to reclaim a childhood that had been cut short too soon. "This one is perfect," Emily exclaimed when Lily tried on the floral dress. "You look like a princess." Lily looked at herself in the mirror and smiled, a genuine smile that completely transformed her face. "I like the flowers," she said quietly. "They suit you," Rowan commented, and saw the blush rise on Lily's cheeks at the compliment. They also bought a pair of white flats, colorful socks with animal designs, Emily's choice was which Lily accepted with a giggle, and a light yellow knitted cardigan. On the way back home, the girls were in the back seat talking about the new clothes. Rowan listened to their conversation, happy to see Lily becoming more and more at ease. My dad is the best dad in the world, Emily said suddenly, in the middle of a sentence about the new shoes. He always takes care of me and buys me the things I need. And now he's taking care of you too. Rowan saw in the rearview mirror how Lily's smile slowly faded. She looked down and was quiet for a moment. So I never knew my dad, she said finally, her voice growing smaller. My stepdad didn't care about me. He always said I was a problem. I don't know what it's like to have a dad. The words came out simple and direct, but they were heavy with a deep pain. Rowan felt as if someone had squeezed his heart tightly. In the seat next to her, Emily fell silent, clearly processing what she had heard. Rowan looked in the rearview mirror and saw Lily huddled in the corner of the seat, hugging the bags with the new clothes as if they were a shield. He wanted to say something, to offer words of comfort, but he knew that in that moment, respectful silence was more appropriate. Emily, with the simple wisdom that children sometimes possess, reached out and touched Lily's arm. Now you have Daddy too, she said quietly. He takes care of me, and now he's taking care of you. Maybe that's what having a dad is like. Lily looked at Emily, then at Rowan through the rearview mirror. Her eyes were bright, but she didn't cry. Instead, she nodded slightly, as if she were storing those words in her heart to think about later. Rowan drove the rest of the way in silence, but his mind was racing. The few words Lily had said revealed so much about her past life, and none of it was good. A 5-year-old child who had never known her father, who had been rejected by her stepfather, who had learned to see herself as a problem. When they got home, Lily ran to her room to put away her new clothes. Rowan followed her and found her organizing each piece with extreme care, folding and refolding them as if they were precious treasures. "Did you enjoy the shopping trip?" he asked, sitting on the edge of the bed. Lily nodded enthusiastically. "I've never had such beautiful clothes. Thank you." "You deserve beautiful things, Lily. Every child does." She looked at him with those big, serious eyes. "Why are you being so nice to me?" The question was so direct, so devoid of artifice, that Rowan had to think for a moment before answering. "Because you're a special child who deserves care and affection, and because—" He hesitated, then decided to be honest. "Because when I look at you, I see someone who needs a family. And we have room in our family for one more person." Lily watched him for a long moment, as if trying to decide if she could believe those words. "Even if I'm not your real daughter. Family isn't just about blood, sweetie. It's about taking care of each other, about being there when someone needs you. And you're already part of our family." For the first time since they had found her in the square, Lily smiled a big, genuine smile, and in that moment, Rowan knew that something fundamental had changed. It was no longer just a temporary situation, no longer just a lost child they were helping. Lily had found her place. And they had found in her a daughter they didn't even know they were looking for. That night, when Rowan went through the rooms to say goodnight, he found the two girls talking quietly through the wall that separated their rooms. Their voices were like a comforting whisper in the darkness of the house. A silent bond had formed between them, born from the shared nightmare and the hand extended in the early morning. And Rowan knew that this bond, as delicate as it was, would be the foundation of something much stronger and more lasting. The afternoon was especially calm that Sunday. The sun streamed through the living room window in golden rays, creating a cozy atmosphere that invited laziness and quiet conversations. Rowan was in the kitchen preparing a snack for the girls, while Emily and Lily played with dolls on the living room rug. It was the kind of moment that had become common in the house in recent days, moments of domestic peace that Rowan had never imagined could be so comforting. The sound of the girls' voices mixed with the soft clatter of dishes being washed, creating a homely symphony that warmed the heart. Emily was dressing her favorite doll in a little blue dress, explaining to Lily that this was Lila's party dress. Lily held a smaller doll, running her little fingers through the plastic blonde hair with an almost reverent gentleness. "My doll's name is Clara," Lily said quietly, as if sharing a precious secret. "She's very pretty." "She is," Emily agreed enthusiastically. "Her hair is just like the princess from the movie we watched yesterday. Do you remember the princess?" Lily nodded, a small smile playing on her lips. She was becoming more comfortable every day, more willing to participate in games and conversations. But Emily noticed that there were still moments when she became distant, as if her mind traveled to places that made her sad. At that moment, as she combed the doll's hair, Lily seemed to be in exactly one of those places. "Emily," she said suddenly, her voice becoming lower, more serious, "can I tell you something?" Emily stopped dressing her doll and looked directly at Lily. There was something in her friend's tone that made her understand this was important. "Of course you can. You can tell me anything." Lily placed the doll in her lap and hugged it to her chest, as if she needed courage to continue. Her dark eyes became distant, as if they were seeing things Emily couldn't see. "Before I came to live here," Lily began slowly, "I lived with my mum. She was very beautiful and always smelled like flowers. She would tell me stories before bed and make pancakes on Sundays." Emily sat closer, sensing that this conversation was different from all the others they had had. "She sounds like she was a really nice mom," Emily said softly. "She was," Lily agreed, and her voice was already getting choked up. But then she started to get sick. She spent a lot of time in bed, and sometimes she coughed a lot. I tried to take care of her. I brought her water and made burnt toast. Rowan, who was drying a plate in the kitchen, froze with his hands in the air. Lily's voice reached him clearly, and he felt his chest tighten imagining such a small child trying to care for a sick mother. "And then?" Emily asked, though her voice was now quieter too, as if she understood the story wouldn't have a happy ending. Lily took a deep breath, as if gathering strength to continue. "My mom got sick and died," she said all at once, the words coming out fast as if it were easier that way. "One day she went to sleep and never woke up. I stayed with her for a long time, waiting, but she wouldn't wake up." The plate slipped from Rowan's hands and almost hit the floor. He caught it at the last second, but his heart was racing. The image of a 5-year-old child trying to wake her dead mother was more than he could bear. Emily also became very quiet, her eyes filling with tears she didn't fully understand. "That must have been very scary," she whispered. "It was," Lily agreed, and now tears began to stream down her cheeks. "After that, my stepdad left. He said he didn't want to be with me anymore, that I was a problem and he didn't know how to take care of a kid. He took all the important things and left me alone in the house." Rowan felt anger rise in his throat. What kind of person abandons a child who has just lost her mother? What kind of man leaves a 5-year-old little girl alone in the world? "But how did you survive?" Emily asked, her own voice now trembling. "At first I stayed in the house, eating what was in the fridge. But then the food ran out and people came to take the furniture away. They said I couldn't stay there anymore." Lily wiped her nose with the back of her hand. "So I left and slept on the streets. Sometimes people gave me food, but most just walked past me like I was invisible." Rowan's heart was broken into 1,000 pieces. He had to lean on the kitchen counter to keep his balance. The thought of Lily, so small and fragile, wandering the streets alone, starving, sleeping in the cold. It was unbearable. "How long were you on the street?" Emily asked, and Rowan realized his daughter was trying to be brave, but was also frightened by the story. "I don't know, a long time. The days turned into nights and the nights turned into days. It was cold and I was hungry and—" Lily stopped, sobbing. "I thought nobody would ever want me. I thought I would be alone forever, that maybe it would be better if I disappeared too, just like my mom." That last sentence was like a punch to Rowan's gut. He had to cover his mouth with his hand to keep from making a sound, because he knew if he started to cry, he wouldn't be able to stop. "But then you found us," Emily said, and Rowan could hear that she was crying now too. "I did," Lily nodded. "When you gave me Barnaby, I thought maybe you were different, but I still thought you would send me away when you found out how complicated I am." Rowan couldn't listen anymore. He quietly slipped out the back door and went into the garden, where he finally allowed the tears to fall. He cried for the little girl who had lost her mother, for the cruel abandonment she had suffered, for the cold nights on the streets, for the hunger and fear a child should never have to experience. He also cried for his own daughter, who at 5 years old was learning that the world could be a very cruel place for some children. And he cried with relief that they had found Lily in time, before it was too late. Inside the house, Emily had moved closer to Lily and taken her hand. "Lily," she said, with all the seriousness a 5-year-old could muster, "you're not complicated. You're my friend, and I like you very much." Lily looked at their intertwined hands, then at Emily's sincere face. "Even knowing all these bad things that happened to me?" "Especially knowing," Emily replied firmly, "because now I know you're very brave. You went through very hard things and you're still a good and nice girl. But what if you get tired of me? What if I do something wrong and you decide you don't want me anymore?" Emily squeezed Lily's hand tighter. "Now you have us. Daddy always says family is forever, and you're our family now." Lily looked into Emily's eyes, searching for any sign of a lie or hesitation. But all she saw was pure sincerity and an affection she had forgotten existed. "Even if it's not for real?" Lily asked in a whisper. "You're real to me," Emily said simply. "You're my real sister, no matter what happened before." It was at that moment that Rowan came back inside, having managed to compose himself enough to face the situation. His eyes were still red, but he had dried his tears. He found the two girls hugging on the living room rug, Lily finally letting all the pain she had held in for so long come out. Emily held her as if she were the most precious thing in the world, whispering words of comfort in her ear. "It's okay," Rowan said, approaching and kneeling beside them. "Lily, I'm so sorry for everything you've been through. No child should have to face that alone." Lily looked up at him through her tears. "You're not mad at me for telling you?" "Mad? Oh, sweetie, I'm proud of you for being brave enough to share this with us, and I'm—" He paused, searching for the right words. "I'm heartbroken to know you suffered so much, but I'm also relieved because now you're safe, and you'll never have to go through this alone again." "Never again?" Lily asked, as if she couldn't believe it. "Never again," Rowan confirmed firmly. "You have a home now, you have a family, and we're not going anywhere." Lily threw herself into Rowan's arms, and he held her as if she were made of crystal. Emily joined the hug, and the three of them stayed like that for a long time, in the middle of the sun-drenched living room. In that moment, Rowan understood that he wasn't just offering Lily a home. She was healing something in him too, something he didn't even know was broken. Emily was learning about compassion and strength in a way that no book or conversation could ever teach. And Lily, finally, was learning that it was possible to be loved unconditionally, that there were people in the world willing to care for her not because they had to, but because they wanted to. Lily's broken heart began, on that day, to mend. And 3 people who met by chance discovered that sometimes the strongest families are the ones that are chosen, not born. In the days that followed Lily's confession, something fundamental changed in the household dynamic. It was as if, by sharing her deepest pain, Lily had finally managed to make room inside herself for other emotions. And the first of these emotions to blossom was something Rowan and Emily didn't expect to see so soon: genuine joy. It all started on Tuesday morning, when Rowan came down to the kitchen and found the 2 girls already awake, sitting on the living room floor with all of Emily's toys scattered around them. But what surprised him wasn't the organized mess. It was the sound coming from there. Lily was laughing. It wasn't the shy, restrained giggle she had given a few times in the past few days. It was a crystal-clear, spontaneous laugh that erupted from deep within her chest and spread through the house like music. Emily had built an unstable tower with colorful blocks, and when it collapsed in all directions, Lily found it the funniest thing in the world. "Again, again," Lily requested, clapping her hands, her eyes shining in a way Rowan had never seen before. Emily, radiant at having managed to elicit that reaction from her friend, immediately began to stack the blocks again, this time even more precariously, ensuring that the fall would be even more spectacular. Rowan leaned against the doorframe, watching the scene with a full heart. It was amazing how such a simple change, the sound of a child's laughter, could completely transform the atmosphere of a house. "Good morning, girls," he said at last, entering the room. "Daddy!" Emily shouted, running to hug him. "Lily is really playing with me. She laughed at the tower when it fell." Lily stood up more slowly, still with a smile on her lips. "Good morning, Rowan," she said, and there was a lightness in her voice that wasn't there before. During breakfast, Rowan noticed other changes. Lily not only ate with more appetite, but she actively participated in the conversation. When Emily commented on a cartoon that had been on television the night before, Lily didn't just listen politely. She asked questions, gave opinions, and even disagreed with Emily about which character was the funniest. "I think the bunny is funnier than the squirrel," Lily said, cutting her pancake into small pieces. "He makes really funny faces." "Really?" Emily retorted, clearly surprised but pleased to have a discussion as an equal. "But the squirrel has that weird voice that's super cool." Rowan watched the back and forth of the conversation, fascinated. It was the first time he had seen Lily expressing her own preferences, defending her opinions. It was as if she was finally feeling safe enough to be herself. After breakfast, while Rowan was tidying up the kitchen, the girls went back to the living room. But this time, instead of playing quietly as they always did, he could hear excited voices, constant laughter, and even what sounded like singing. Curious, he went to peek and found a scene that completely charmed him. Emily had put on a CD of children's music, and the two were dancing around the room, making up silly moves and singing at the top of their lungs. The itsy bitsy spider went up the water spout. They sang off-key, hopping around the room. Lily was completely lost in the game, her hair flying and her cheeks pink from laughing so much. She had invented a move that involved spinning 3 times and then pretending to fall, which made Emily burst out laughing every time. Down came the rain and washed the spider out. Rowan couldn't help but smile. The song was silly, the dance was hilarious, and the sound the two of them made together was pure cacophony, but it was the most beautiful sound he had heard in a long time. Throughout the morning, the house was filled with this kind of joyful commotion. The girls invented a game where they had to walk through the entire house without touching the floor, only stepping on furniture, cushions, and rugs. Lily proved to be surprisingly creative, suggesting impossible routes and crazy rules that made Emily laugh until she couldn't take it anymore. "Now we have to go from the kitchen table to the living room sofa, but without using our hands," Lily declared, taking on the role of rule maker. "How are we going to do that?" Emily asked, genuinely intrigued. "Only with our elbows and knees," Lily replied, demonstrating a peculiar method of locomotion that involved crawling on the floor like a soldier. Emily thought the idea was brilliant and immediately started to imitate her, and soon the two were crawling around the house, laughing so hard they could barely breathe. Rowan watched all of this with a mixture of amusement and deep emotion. It was incredible to see how Lily had transformed. The shy, scared girl they had found in the square was giving way to a vibrant child, full of ideas and energy to play. At lunchtime, Lily ate with a real appetite for the first time since she had arrived. She not only finished her plate, but asked for a second helping, and even helped Emily invent a song about pasta that the two sang throughout the meal. "Fierce yummy pasta, pasta with cheese, pasta that I eat and gives me a kiss." "That doesn't even make sense," Emily laughed. "It doesn't have to make sense," Lily retorted. "It's just for fun." Rowan almost choked on his food. That response, full of light-heartedness and joy, was something he never expected to hear from Lily so soon. In the afternoon, the girls asked for paper and colored pencils to draw. Rowan set them up at the living room table, with all the art supplies spread out, and went to the kitchen to prepare a snack for them. But the concentrated silence lasted only a few minutes before being replaced by more laughter and animated conversation. "I'm going to draw us," Emily announced. "Try how will we look on the paper?" Lily asked, curious. "I'm going to draw us holding hands. That way everyone will know we're best friends." Rowan stopped cutting the fruit and paid attention to the conversation. "Do you think I'm your best friend?" Lily asked, and there was a vulnerability in her voice that made Rowan's heart ache. "Of course I do. Don't you think I'm your best friend too?" There was a pause, and Rowan could imagine Lily thinking about the answer. "I've never had a best friend before," she said finally. "I didn't know what it was like." "Oh, it's really cool," Emily explained with enthusiasm. "A best friend is when you really like someone and want to play with them every day and tell them all your secrets and share all your things." "And do they stay with you even when you're sad?" Lily asked. "Especially when you're sad. That's what best friends do." Rowan heard the sound of colored pencils scratching on paper and imagined the two girls focused on their drawings. After a while, Emily called out, "Done! Look how it turned out." "Wow, that's beautiful," Lily exclaimed. "It's really us." "Now I'm going to write down here," Emily said, and Rowan could hear her tongue sticking out as she concentrated on the letters BESTFRIENDS. "Best friends," Lily read quietly, as if savoring the words. There was a moment of silence, and then Lily said, with a confidence Rowan had never heard in her voice, "Now I have one." The simplicity and joy of that statement made Rowan have to lean on the kitchen counter. In just a few words, Lily had expressed a profound internal transformation. She was no longer seeing herself as the rejected and lonely girl. She was seeing herself as someone who deserved love and friendship. When he brought the snack for the girls, he found them side by side at the table, admiring their drawing. It was a typical work of art by 5-year-olds, two stick figures with flowing hair and smiles that took up half their faces, holding hands under a giant yellow sun. "What a beautiful drawing," Rowan praised sincerely. "Can I hang it on the fridge?" "You can," the two replied in unison, clearly proud of their creation. As Rowan fixed the drawing to the refrigerator with a colorful magnet, he heard the girls returning to their games in the living room. This time, they had invented a game that involved pretending they were princesses trapped in a castle who needed to escape using only cushions as bridges. "Watch out, Princess Lily! The dragon is coming!" Emily shouted dramatically. "Don't worry, Princess Emily, I have a magic sword," Lily replied, brandishing a ruler as if it were an enchanted weapon. The sound of pretend swords clashing, followed by victorious laughter, echoed through the house. Rowan sat at the kitchen table, just listening. The difference was extraordinary. Weeks before, his house was a place of respectful silences and quiet conversations. Now it was full of life, energy, joyful noise. Emily had always been a happy child, but Lily had brought a new dimension to her joy. Taking care of someone, being the big sister, even though they were the same age, had given Emily a sense of purpose that made her shine even brighter. And Lily was transforming into a completely different child. The scared and withdrawn girl was giving way to someone spontaneous, creative, full of ideas and energy to play. "I'm so glad we took her in," Rowan murmured to himself, watching the leaves dance in the autumn wind outside the window. It was a simple sentence, but loaded with meaning. It wasn't just about having done a good deed or about helping a child in need. It was about how Lily had enriched their lives in ways he never imagined possible. Emily had gained not just a playmate, but a sister who was teaching her about compassion, generosity, and strength. Rowan had discovered he had room in his heart to love another child as if she were his own. And Lily had found something she thought she would never have. A family that loved her unconditionally, a place where she could be a child, where she could laugh out loud and invent silly games without fear. At the end of the afternoon, when the girls finally calmed down and settled on the sofa to watch a cartoon, Rowan noticed how they naturally positioned themselves. There was no longer the careful space that Lily used to maintain. They were leaning against each other, sharing a blanket, with Barnaby the teddy bear balanced between them. It was an image of pure domestic harmony, but more than that, it was the image of a family that had been formed not by blood, but by choice and love. The bond between Emily and Lily had transformed into something that transcended friendship. It was a real and deep sisterhood, built on the solid foundation of mutual trust, sincere affection, and shared experiences. And the most beautiful thing of all was that this transformation had happened naturally, without force or artificiality. Like two plants that grow side by side and intertwine their roots, Emily and Lily had found in each other exactly what they needed. When it was time for bed, Rowan didn't have to call the girls twice. They went up together, talking about their plans for the next day. More games to invent, more songs to sing, more drawings to make. When saying goodnight to each of them in their respective rooms, Rowan noticed that they both fell asleep quickly, with satisfied smiles on their faces. They were the smiles of children who had spent a perfect day playing with their favorite person in the world. And for the first time since Lily had arrived, Rowan went to sleep without worrying if she would wake up scared during the night. He knew that, even if that happened, she would no longer be alone with her fears. Emily would always be there, ready to extend a hand and offer comfort. The house had filled with life, laughter, and love. And Rowan knew, with absolute certainty, that his family was complete. The sound of the rain began as a soft whisper against the windows, but gradually intensified until it became a constant symphony that enveloped the house. It was one of those autumn rains that arrive without warning, turning the sunny afternoon into a damp, cozy embrace. Rowan was in the kitchen making hot chocolate when he heard the first distant thunder. Instinctively, he glanced towards the living room, where Emily and Lily were playing with puzzles, expecting to see some sign of nervousness from Lily. In the first few days after her arrival, any loud noise would make her flinch and look for a corner to hide in. But to his surprise and delight, Lily didn't even look up from the puzzle. She remained focused, searching for the piece that would complete the blue sky of the picture, while chatting excitedly with Emily about where each part fit. "I think this piece goes here," Lily said, holding a small blue bit. "Look, it has a little bit of a white cloud." "That's right," Emily agreed. "You're getting really good at this." Rowan smiled, stirring the hot chocolate in the pot. It was incredible how Lily had transformed in the last few weeks. The scared girl who startled at any sound had given way to a child secure enough to ignore the thunder and focus on her games. When he brought the steaming mugs to the living room, he found the two girls finishing the puzzle, proud of their achievement. "Done," Emily announced. "We made a whole castle. With princesses and everything," Lily added, pointing to the small, colorful figures in the image. "What beautiful work," Rowan praised, handing them the mugs. "So hot chocolate to celebrate." The girls received the drinks with radiant smiles. Lily blew gently on the chocolate, clearly savoring not just the taste, but the whole ritual, being warm inside while it rained outside, having someone who cared enough to make something special for her. "Rowan," Lily said after a careful sip, "can you read us a story tonight?" The question came out so naturally, so spontaneously, that Rowan needed a moment to process how much it represented. Lily was not only asking for something, she was assuming there would be a tonight together, that she would be part of the family's routine. "So yes, of course I can," he replied, trying to keep his voice casual despite the emotion he felt. "What kind of story do you want to hear?" "An adventure one," Emily said immediately. "Or one with princesses," Lily added shyly. Then, more bravely, "or one that has both." "Adventure and princesses," Rowan repeated, pretending to consider it seriously. "I think I know a few like that." The rain continued to fall throughout the afternoon, creating a perfect atmosphere for staying indoors. The girls organized their toys, then asked to watch a movie, and later helped Rowan prepare dinner, or at least tried to help, which resulted in more flour on the floor than in the cake batter. Lily participated in everything with genuine enthusiasm. She laughed when Emily sneezed flour on her own nose, offered ideas to improve the recipe, and even took the initiative to clean up the mess they had made. "Let me clean this up," she offered, grabbing a cloth before Rowan could. "We made the mess." It was a small but significant gesture. Lily wasn't just living in the house, she was taking ownership of it, taking on responsibilities, acting like a member of the family. After dinner, while Rowan finished cleaning the kitchen, the girls settled on the living room sofa. The rain had subsided to a gentle drizzle, but it still created a comforting background sound. "Rowan!" Emily called. "So can you come read the story now?" "I'm coming," he replied, drying his hands and grabbing one of the girls' favorite books from the shelf. When he got to the living room, he found a scene that warmed his heart. Emily and Lily had settled on the sofa, one on each side, leaving the middle spot clearly reserved for him. They had even prepared a blanket large enough for all three. "We saved this spot for you," Lily said, patting the empty space between them. Rowan sat down, and immediately the two girls snuggled up against him, one on each side. Lily hesitated for just a second before moving closer, as if she still wasn't completely used to casual physical contact, but soon relaxed against Rowan's arm. "What story did you choose?" he asked, opening the book. "The one about the princess who becomes a warrior," Emily said excitedly. "That's a good one," Lily agreed. "She's brave like us." Rowan began to read, using different voices for each character, as he always did for Emily. He noticed that Lily listened with full attention, her eyes fixed on the book, occasionally asking questions about the illustrations or making comments about the story. Why did she decide to become a warrior? Lily asked when they got to the part where the princess traded her dresses for armor. Because she wanted to protect the people she loved, Rowan explained. Sometimes we have to be brave to take care of our family. Lily nodded as if that made perfect sense to her. As the story progressed, Rowan felt the two girls relaxing more and more against him. The combination of the gentle rain, the warm atmosphere of the house, the calm voice of the reading, and the security of being together was creating an atmosphere of absolute peace. When they reached the end of the first story, Lily looked up with her eyes still bright with interest. "Can you read one more?" she asked, and there was a confidence in her voice that hadn't existed weeks before. "Of course," Rowan said, turning the pages to find another story. "How about this one about the dragon who learned to make friends?" "I like dragons," Lily murmured, snuggling closer to Rowan. "They're especially the nice ones," Rowan continued reading, his voice becoming softer and softer as he realized the girls were getting sleepy. Emily's eyes were already half closed, and Lily, despite still trying to pay attention to the story, was clearly fighting off sleep. The rain had stopped completely, but the silence that followed was even cozier. It was as if the whole world had quieted down so that this perfect moment could exist. When Rowan reached the end of the second story, he looked down and saw that Lily had finally given in to sleep. Her head was resting on his lap, her dark hair spread over his leg, her face completely relaxed and at peace. She was holding Barnaby against her chest, but not with the desperation of the first few days. Now he was just a comforting companion. Emily was also asleep, leaning against his arm, breathing softly. Rowan remained completely still, not wanting to break the magic of the moment. There he was, with two girls sleeping trustingly in his arms, feeling more complete than he had felt in years. "Maybe I need this more than I thought," he whispered to himself, looking alternately at each of the girls. The sentence came out spontaneously, but it carried a deep truth that he was just beginning to understand. It wasn't just that he was helping Lily. She was filling a void in his life that he didn't even know existed. Taking care of just Emily had always been enough, but having Lily there too had added a new dimension to his experience of fatherhood. Seeing Emily take care of someone, seeing her grow in compassion and responsibility, was being incredibly rewarding. And Lily had brought a unique perspective to his family. Her genuine gratitude for small kindnesses, her determination to help whenever possible, her contagious joy when she felt safe. All of this had enriched their lives in unexpected ways. Rowan stayed there for a few more minutes, simply absorbing the feeling of peace and completeness. But he knew he couldn't let the girls sleep on the sofa all night. Gently, he first carried Emily to her room, then went back for Lily. When he lifted her, she murmured something unintelligible, but didn't wake up, trusting completely in his safety. After tucking the girls into their respective beds, Rowan returned to the living room and sat on the sofa, where minutes before they were all together. The house was silent again, but it was a different silence than it used to be before Lily arrived. It was a full silence, charged with the loving presence of the two girls sleeping upstairs. It was in this moment of quiet reflection that Rowan made a decision that had been maturing in his heart for weeks. The next morning, after the girls had breakfast and went out to play in the garden, Rowan called them for a talk in the living room. There was something in his expression that made them both sit on the sofa with full attention. "Girls," he began, sitting in the armchair across from them, "I want to tell you something." Emily and Lily exchanged curious glances. "When I was little," Rowan said, looking directly at Lily, "I was left behind. I was in an orphanage." Lily's eyes widened. She didn't expect Rowan to have a story similar to hers. "That was a good place," Rowan continued, "but it wasn't a family. I always felt alone even though I was surrounded by other children, until a family took me in and everything changed. Just like what happened to me here," Lily whispered. "Exactly the same," Rowan confirmed. "And that's why, when Emily brought you home that day, I knew we had to take care of you. Because I remembered what it was like to need a family." Emily listened with full attention, beginning to understand that this conversation was important. Rowan leaned forward, his words becoming more direct and meaningful. "Lily, do you want to be part of our family? Can I adopt you?" The silence that followed was filled with emotion. Lily looked at Rowan, then at Emily, then back at Rowan, as if she couldn't believe what she had heard. "Adopt me," she repeated quietly. "Does that mean that I would be your real daughter?" "It would mean you would be my daughter. In every sense," Rowan confirmed. "Legally, emotionally, forever. You would have my last name. You would officially be Emily's sister, and you would never have to worry about having a place to stay again." Emily, who'd been quiet throughout the conversation, suddenly burst with joy. "We're going to be real sisters," she exclaimed, jumping off the sofa and hugging Lily. "Our real sisters, with papers and everything." Lily's eyes were full of tears, but they were tears of pure joy. She looked at Rowan with an expression of disbelief and gratitude that he would never forget. You really want this?" she asked, as if she still couldn't believe someone would choose her voluntarily. "I want this more than anything," Rowan replied with absolute sincerity. "You're already part of our family and our hearts. This would just make it official." Lily got up from the sofa and walked over to Rowan. For a moment, she stood in front of him, as if absorbing the magnitude of what was happening. Then, with a smile that lit up her whole face, she threw herself into his arms. "Yes," she said, hugging him with all the strength she had. "Yes. Thank you." Rowan hugged her back, feeling as if his heart would burst with happiness. Over Lily's shoulder, he saw Emily dancing with joy around the room, clearly radiant at the prospect of having an official sister. "Thank you," Rowan murmured in Lily's ear, "for letting us be your family." When they finally broke from the hug, Lily was crying and laughing at the same time. Emily immediately joined the hug, turning it into a three-person family hug. "We have to tell everyone," Emily said excitedly. "The other people at school, Grandma, everyone." "And will there be a party?" Lily asked shyly. "Of course there will be a party," Rowan replied, "the biggest party this house has ever seen." There, embraced in the middle of the living room on a sunny morning after the previous night's rain, the three of them knew that something fundamental had changed. They were no longer just three people living in the same house and taking care of each other. They were a real family, chosen by love, strengthened by shared experiences, and united forever by the conscious decision to be together. The first night of peace had been just the beginning. Now they had a lifetime of peaceful nights ahead, knowing that none of them would ever have to face the world alone again. The morning was especially clear when Rowan woke up, and for a moment he couldn't identify why he felt different. Then he remembered, today was the day. After months of paperwork, interviews, visits from the social worker, and legal procedures, they would finally receive the official adoption papers for Lily. He went down to the kitchen and found the two girls already awake, sitting at the table having breakfast. Emily was excited, talking non-stop about how special that day would be, while Lily listened with a shy but radiant smile. "Daddy!" Emily shouted when she saw him. "Today, Lily becomes our daughter and sister on paper too." "On paper too?" Rowan repeated, amused. "Yeah," Emily explained seriously, "because in our hearts she already was, right? Now it's going to be on paper too." Lily laughed at that explanation, and Rowan noticed how much she had changed since they had started the adoption process. The constant uncertainty that used to be in her eyes had been replaced by a quiet confidence. She knew she belonged there. "Are you ready to go get the documents?" Rowan asked, pouring himself some coffee. "Super ready," the two replied in unison. The drive to the records office was filled with anticipation. Emily chattered about all the plans she had to celebrate, while Lily was quieter, but Rowan could see in the rearview mirror that she couldn't stop smiling. "Lily," Rowan said, "how are you feeling?" "Happy," she replied simply. "Very happy. And a little nervous too." "Nervous? Why?" Lily hesitated for a moment. "I don't know, I guess I still can't quite believe it's real." "It is real," Emily said, holding her friend's hand. "Soon you'll have a paper with your name on it and everything." At the records office, Rowan took care of all the bureaucracy, while the girls sat in a waiting room, flipping through magazines and whispering to each other. Lily held Barnaby in her lap, but Rowan noticed it was no longer out of fear. It was out of habit, out of affection. When their name was finally called, Rowan felt a deep emotion welling up in his chest. "The Mitchell family," the clerk announced. "The Mitchell family." Lily would now officially carry Rowan's last name. She would be Lily Mitchell, Rowan's legal and emotional daughter, Emily's official sister. The clerk handed over the folder with all the documents, briefly explaining what each paper represented. Lily listened with full attention, as if memorizing every word. "And here is the new birth certificate," the man said, handing an official document to Lily. "Now you are officially part of this family." Lily took the paper with both hands, looking at her name printed there. "Lily Mitchell," she read quietly, testing how it sounded. "Do you like it?" Rowan asked. "I like it a lot," she replied, hugging the document to her chest. The ride back home was calmer, but filled with a contained happiness. The three people in the car knew that something fundamental had changed. They were no longer Rowan and Emily, temporarily helping a child in need. They were an official, legal, permanent family. At home, Rowan had a surprise waiting for them. During the previous week, he had had a small, discreet plaque made with the name Lily to put on her bedroom door. When he went up with her to show her the surprise, Lily stopped in the hallway and stared at the door for a long time. "Lily Mitchell," she read aloud, running her fingers over the golden letters. "Your official room," Rowan said, "forever." Lily opened the door and entered the room she already knew well, but which now seemed different. It was no longer the guest room where she was staying temporarily. It was her room, with her name on the door, her clothes in the closet, her toys organized on the shelf. "Is all of this really mine?" she asked, as if she still couldn't believe it. "All of this is yours," Rowan confirmed. "The clothes, the toys, the books, the bed, everything. And more importantly, you will never have to leave here again." Lily sat on the bed and looked around the room, absorbing the reality of finally having a space that was completely hers. "When I lived on the street," she said quietly, "I always looked at the windows of houses and imagined what it would be like to have a room, to have my own bed, to have a place to keep my things." Rowan sat next to her on the bed. "And now you do." "Now I do," she agreed, smiling. "It's better than I imagined." They went downstairs to find Emily in the kitchen, clearly plotting something. There was paper, colored pencils, and glitter spread across the table. "What are you doing, Princess?" Rowan asked. "It's a surprise," Emily replied mysteriously, "but it's to celebrate Lily becoming our official family." Rowan left Emily with her secret projects and went to the kitchen to prepare a special dinner. Nothing too elaborate, he wasn't a great cook, but he wanted it to be a memorable meal to mark the day. He decided to make lasagna, which he knew both girls loved, and a simple salad. While he cooked, he could hear the girls' voices in the living room, Emily clearly giving instructions to Lily about some art project. "No, no, the glitter goes here," Emily would say. "It looks prettier this way." "Are you sure?" "I think it would look cool if," Lily would reply, and Rowan smiled hearing how comfortable she felt to disagree and give her own opinions. An hour later, Rowan called the girls for dinner. The table was set with their best dishes. They weren't anything fancy, but they were special to them. There were lit candles in the center of the table, creating a festive atmosphere. "Wow!" Lily exclaimed when she saw the set table. "It looks like a party." "It is a party," Rowan said. "A family party." During dinner, Emily could barely contain her excitement to show her surprise. She ate quickly, constantly glancing at a decorated envelope she had left next to her plate. "Can I give it now?" she asked as soon as she finished eating. "How you can?" Rowan said, curious to see what Emily had prepared. Emily picked up the envelope and ceremoniously handed it to Lily. "It's for you. I made it." Lily opened the envelope carefully, as if it were something very precious. Inside was a handmade card, clearly made with a lot of love and dedication. The cover had a drawing of the three family members, Rowan tall in the middle, Emily and Lily on either side, all holding hands. There were colorful flowers around them, a bright yellow sun, and a lot of glitter. Lily opened the card and found the message Emily had written in her best handwriting. "To my sister Lily, welcome to our family forever. Now we are real sisters. I love you so much, Emily. There were small drawings of hearts scattered across the page, and more glitter stuck in some spots. Lily looked at the card for a long time, running her fingers over the words as if memorizing each letter. "Thank you, Emily," she said finally, her voice thick with emotion. "It's the most beautiful card I've ever seen." "Did you really like it?" Emily asked, beaming. "I liked it a lot. I'm going to keep it forever." "Just like I keep all the special things," Emily agreed. After dinner, while Rowan washed the dishes, the girls settled on the living room sofa with the card and the official adoption documents spread out on the coffee table. Lily would pick up each paper, read her name, and smile as if she were still getting used to the reality. "Rowan," she called out suddenly, her voice turning more serious. "Yes?" "Is it forever now?" she asked, and there was a vulnerability in her voice that showed that despite all the joy of the day, a part of her was still afraid that this was temporary. Rowan stopped washing the dishes and turned to look directly at her. "Forever, daughter." The word daughter came out naturally, but Rowan realized it was the first time he had used it officially, and it sounded perfectly right. Lily smiled, a big, relieved smile. "Daughter," she repeated quietly, testing how the word sounded directed at her. "Forever," Rowan repeated, returning to the living room and sitting in the armchair. "Even if you get into mischief, even if you get bad grades at school, even if we fight sometimes, family is forever." "Even if I break something by accident?" Lily asked, clearly testing the limits of this promise. "Even if you break something by accident," Rowan confirmed. "So what if I break something on purpose?" Emily asked mischievously, joining the game. "Then you two will be grounded," Rowan replied, feigning seriousness. "But you'll still be my daughters." The girls laughed, and Lily visibly relaxed. The anxiety she still carried finally dissipated completely. "Rowan," Lily said after a few minutes of comfortable silence, "can I tell you something I've always wanted?" "Of course." Lily hesitated, as if gathering the courage to share something very important. "I've always wanted to go to school, like the other kids." The confession came out simply but was loaded with meaning. Rowan realized that this wasn't just about education. It was about normality, about being part of the world of other children, about having the same experiences every child should have. "You're going to go to the same school as Emily," Rowan said without hesitation. Lily's eyes widened. "Really, the same school?" "The same school," Rowan confirmed. "I've already spoken with the principal. You can start next week if you want." Emily jumped off the sofa, extremely excited. "We'll go together. I'll show you everything, the classroom, the playground, the library, the cafeteria. And I'll introduce you to all my friends," Emily continued. "They'll love having a new sister in the class." Lily's eyes were shining with emotion. "I'm going to have friends, and a teacher, and homework." "All of that," Rowan said, amused by her enthusiasm for things most children considered boring. "And a uniform. Will I have a uniform like the other students?" "I'll take you to buy a uniform tomorrow," Rowan promised. Lily was quiet for a moment, processing all the information. "I never thought this would happen to me," she said finally, her voice full of wonder. "What did you think would happen?" Emily asked, curious. Lily thought about the question. "I thought I would always be different from other kids, that I would never have a family or a house or a school. I thought those things were only for kids who were lucky. Now you're lucky too," Emily said with simplicity. "Now I'm lucky too," Lily agreed, smiling. Rowan watched the two girls talking, feeling a deep gratitude for how things had turned out. Months before, he was a single father with a simple, predictable routine. Now he was a father of two girls. His house was full of life and joy, and he couldn't imagine how he had been happy before without having Lily around. "Girls," he said, "you know I'm the luckiest man in the world, right?" "Why?" they asked in unison. "Because I have the two best daughters that exist." Emily ran to hug him, as she always did when he said something affectionate. Lily hesitated for only a fraction of a second before joining the hug. "I'm lucky too," Lily murmured. "I have the best family in the world." They stayed like that, hugged for a few minutes, the three of them savoring the feeling of completeness and security. Outside, life continued its normal rhythm, but inside that house, A family had just become officially complete. When it was time for bed, Rowan went up with the girls to say goodnight. In Lily's room, he helped her put all the official documents in a special folder, which she placed carefully on the shelf next to her favorite books. "Rowan," she said, as he was leaving the room, "thank you for choosing me." "Thank you for letting us choose you," he replied. Lily smiled and snuggled under the covers, hugging Barnaby. But Rowan noticed that she didn't hold the teddy bear with the desperation of the first few days. Now Barnaby was just a beloved companion, no longer her only safe harbor in a scary world. "Good night, Dad," she said, testing the new word. "Good night, daughter," Rowan replied, and they both smiled at how natural those words sounded. When Rowan went down to the living room, he found Emily's card still on the coffee table, next to the official adoption documents. He picked up the card and looked at the drawing again. 3 people holding hands, smiling, surrounded by flowers and the sun. It was a simple, childish representation, but it perfectly captured what they had become. A family united by love, by choice, and by the certainty that some of the best gifts in life come in completely unexpected ways. That night, for the first time since Lily had arrived, Rowan went to sleep knowing there was no more paperwork to fill out, procedures to follow, or legal uncertainties to resolve. Lily was officially his daughter. Emily officially had a sister, and they were officially a complete family, with all the documents, rights, and responsibilities that entailed. But more important than any official paper, they were a family by heart, by the daily choice to care for one another, and by the absolute certainty that nothing in the world could ever separate them. The house overflowed with joy. It was impossible to enter without being enveloped by the sound of laughter, echoing through the hallways, excited voices planning adventures, and the constant pitter-patter of small feet running from one side to the other. That Saturday morning, Rowan woke up to the sound of pans clanging in the kitchen. He went downstairs and found his 2 daughters trying to make pancakes. The result was a delicious catastrophe: flour scattered all over the counter, a burnt pancake on the stove, and both girls covered in batter from head to toe. "Surprise!" they shouted when they saw him. Lily held up a pancake that looked more like a map of an unknown continent. "This one looks like a heart," she said, proud. Rowan looked at the mess, at the lopsided pancakes, at the dirty but radiant girls, and felt his heart fill with happiness. "They are the most beautiful pancakes I've ever seen," he said sincerely. After lunch, the girls announced their special plans. "We're going to have a camp-out," Emily declared. "In the living room," Lily added. "Hires with sheets and pillows and everything." Rowan helped them drag all the sheets from the house into the living room. Emily directed the operation like a little architect, while Lily followed her instructions with enthusiasm. "The rope goes there, and the big sheet here," Emily instructed. Within an hour, they had transformed the living room into a cozy campsite. Sheets were strung between chairs and the sofa, creating a tent. The floor was lined with every pillow in the house. "Done," Lily announced. "Our secret clubhouse." The 2 of them crawled under the sheets, and Rowan could hear conspiratorial whispers, followed by muffled giggles. Throughout the afternoon, the secret clubhouse was the setting for various adventures: a castle, a spaceship, a school where Lily was the teacher. "Dragons are very smart and like to make friends," Lily explained in her teacher voice. "Professor Lily, what do dragons eat?" Emily asked formally. "They eat flowers and cookies, and ice cream on Sundays." The 2 of them would burst into laughter. When night fell, Rowan suggested they sleep in the camp-out. He brought extra blankets, fluffy pillows, and even allowed popcorn inside the tent. The 3 of them snuggled into the tight but cozy space, sharing stories until the girls started to yawn. "Time for sleep," Rowan said softly. It was then that Lily pulled a folded piece of paper from under her pillow. "Rowan," she said quietly, "I made something for you guys." She unfolded the paper, revealing a drawing made with colored pencils. 3 stick figures holding hands, a tall one in the middle, 2 smaller ones on the sides. All had huge smiles. Around them, Lily had drawn a house with yellow windows, colorful flowers, and a big sun in the corner. At the bottom, in careful handwriting, was written, "My family." Rowan took the drawing, feeling something tighten in his throat. Emily leaned in to get a better look. "It's us," she exclaimed. "That's beautiful, Lily." Lily looked at them both, her eyes shining in the soft light. "Thank you for letting me be part of this family," she said, her voice low but full of light. "I've never been this happy." Rowan held the drawing tightly, trying to hold back the tears forming in his eyes. "We thank you," he managed to say, "for choosing to stay with us." Emily hugged Lily tightly. "You're the best sister in the world." Rowan joined the hug, enveloping his two daughters. There, in that makeshift campout, the three of them hugged as if it were the most natural thing in the world. Love, Rowan realized, had a name, Lily and Emily. It had a shape, two girls falling asleep safely in his arms. And it had a home, that living room filled with laughter and memories. When the girls fell asleep, still hugging in the middle of the pillows, Rowan looked at the drawing, "My family." Two simple words that represented the greatest transformation of his life. A family not born of blood but of love, not planned but perfect. Rowan turned off the light and settled down between his daughters, feeling completely at peace. And there, on that calm night, love had a name, a shape, and a home. If this story touched your heart, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next ones. Leave a like, because it helps this story get recommended to more people. See you in the next story.